When a test fails, the error message should explicitly indicate what went wrong. Because imagine that you have hundreds of tests in your application, and this is absolutely common practice. So a subset of these tests is failing due to the recent modifications of the code. You should be able to quickly figure out the reason, right? So now for a quick test, let's simply go ahead and return 5 from our calculator sum method. So go into the calculator. Here we got the sum method. Let's just comment that out and let's simply return 5, which is obviously wrong, right? Because first of all, we don't use left and right, but however, when we go to the test, you can see that we expect the result to be 4, and if not, we throw an exception. And since sum is now always returning 5, it doesn't really matter what we enter here. So in fact, our test will fail. Let's right click, run tests again. Let's open up everything what we got right here until we come to the actual testing method. And you can see that the message right here is system exception of type system exception was thrown. And this is because if we run into an issue, we throw an exception here, which is absolutely not really saying us anything than, well, there is an error, but we don't provide any information, right? In fact, it tells us nothing about what went wrong and the reason that the test failed. So let's actually throw a more useful error message. Inside of the parameter here, we pass in a formatted string. Let's say the sum. We can hardcode this because that's our testing scenario. It's also hardcoded in the method, right? So that's absolutely no problem. The sum 2 was expected to be 4, but it's, and then pass in the result. So this is some useful information actually, which helps us to fix problems in our application depending on whatever we return or we get as a result from our test. So let's rerun the test just one time. And now you can see system exception, the sum 2 was expected to be 4, but it's 5. So right now we have a really nice, well, exception message, which also tells us about the actual result and what we are expecting. So this is nice, and it directly indicates that the calculation of 2 and 2 here, anything there is wrong. So our testing scenario would be 2 and 2 is 4 and the outcome was 5. So anything here was absolutely programmed in the wrong way. However, we don't need to use 2 and 2 should be 4. We could also go ahead and say 10 plus 10 should be 20, or 1000 plus 500 should be 1500, right? So everything here which adds 2 numbers would work fine. But you have to think about one specific test scenario. Just think about it. What could a user enter and what would be a valid result? So a user types in 2 and 2 and the result should be 4. That's a valid testing scenario. However, the assertion message, that's the message we're getting right here from the test, is specific and unique now. So I understand the exact reason for the test failure as soon as I look at it. And now we are able to fix it. So we can see that this sum method is wrong. Let's go into it. And we can see that we are returning 5 here. And that's not correct. So we directly come to the right point. Let's bring in the correct logic here, right? So we can save it. And again, if we changed something, you also want to pay attention on that here, right? So you can see it's not passing, but we want to make that pass. So let's run the test again after fixing the issue, or after we think that we fixed the issue. And you can see that when you start or restart the test, everything is working now and that the test has passed successfully. Awesome. Now there's still a lot to improve and we really want to teach you the best way. So inside of the unit test, you can see that if statement here. And well, those if statements make the code base look complicated. So what we do next is we install a library to remove the if statement from our test and clean up the test code. And for that, we will use the so-called fluent assertions. So let's dive into that.